Big shout out to all the subscribers. You guys probably thought I left you, but I didn't. Welcome in to my fantasy football 2019-2020 first video. I'm going to talk a little bit about transitioning from baseball into football because I think there's something to be said there. I'm going to give you my top group of guys. I did an auction. I have real values. So when I say like he costs too much, I actually mean price, not round. Let's kick it off right now. I've got a lot to go through. But first, I wanted to level the playing field here. I'm just going to give you my NFL podcast list. You want to get better at fantasy football? How it happens is a slow osmosis of bunches of opinions and hearing names and getting accustomed to the league the way we did in the baseball season. And what I do is usually just listen to a lot of podcasts. I'm not writing things down and taking notes. I'm not doing my list. I'm just absorbing and getting names and getting them in. I'm not out running stats. I'm not running regressions. I'm not watching old game film. It's a thought, but it's not that serious yet. So I'm just going to give you guys the podcast that you probably need to be listening to. That'll level the playing field here, and then I can come in and add a little more value for you. First, the Daily Fantasy Edge. Better in season. I like it. If that's the one I'm thinking of, I think that dude is funny. I'm taking things from DFS and applying them to seasonal, applying them to drafts. You already can look at the prices of week one guys. That's a good idea of who to draft. The Audible by footballguys.com. It's decent. These guys talk football. They talk be a doctor. You probably got to stream a little bit of the Audible. You got the Fantasy Footballers. Solid. They're serious. They take the stuff serious. They give good tips. Just a lot of ads. Man, they are selling on that show. I mean, they're consistent. They put it in. I get information. I like the guys. But God, the ads. Brutal. In this league, fantasy football, okay. They can be funny. RotoWire fantasy football, probably a mainstay. This one I like. This dude gets nitty gritty. Roto Underworld Radio. Roto Underworld fantasy football show. He's got hot takes. He's trying to sell his wide receiver performance ad or other website information that he has that they go deeper into. But he says commentary about players, makes opinions, takes stands, and has been right frequently. So mix that in there. I don't know how I found that one, but it's working. I got a couple more here. Let me just scan down. I listen to a lot of podcasts. The Ringer NFL show. It's interesting. It's not really fantasy, but it just talks about the league. It talks about coaches. It talks about salaries, running back values, why teams aren't paying running backs. I like to mix in some Ringer NFL show. It's decent. Do get a little bit of that. They got the Audible going again. The Most Accurate Podcast by 4for4. It's solid. It's just nitty, grindy. They have guests on. They talk details. These guys are serious. I would mix in a little bit of that. Obviously your ESPN has something. RotoWorld has something. Fangraphs has something. I'm not participating that much in those, to be honest. I had a couple more here. I just wanted to skim down and make sure that I got you everything. Daily Fantasy Edge. Obviously, Fantasy Football Today by CBS. If you're looking to go to sleep, make mistakes, or find out information late, they're there. It's comprehensive. The Harris Fantasy Football Podcast. I just stopped listening to it. I mean, the guy's voice is pretty annoying. He wants to say that he watches game film, which he just doesn't understand football play enough to what you can watch game film and make opinions, but he doesn't seem to know the nuance enough to transition it, falls in love with players. But he puts out a list. He's got a strength of schedule. He takes it serious. He's got his own angles there. It looks like that's it. So there's some podcasts. I want to put that in the beginning. So if you want to hear the list, you want to go subscribe to those or whatever, start from the beginning, put those back in. MLB crossover show, just a couple things I had to mention. I'll do victory laps on my auction teams later because I'm going to be playoff bound in a lot of areas. But also, I had a really bad snake draft team. And so I wanted to know, like, what could I do better? What did I learn from auctions in baseball that I could do better in football and not make those mistakes? And it's like I want a little bit more premium players. But the biggest difference to me is that auction is not snake. Being good at auction, I'm going to show you guys later that I was good at auction. I've got some good teams. But my snake team, why am I 12 of 16? What happened? So it's a completely different mindset. I'm going to talk about auction, and that's what you're not going to get on any of those podcasts. You're going to have guys constantly talking about value, and I want to find a guy, I don't think he's a good value there, but if he's around in 12, I mean, snake is a different thing. It's all about why take this guy here when I could take a similar guy 2 rounds later, meaning it opened up that slot to take a separate guy. And that's all snake is. Letting it fall. Letting everyone share in the equality of getting a pick. But in auction, really the focus is team structure. The focus is team structure. It's on who do I want, how am I going to win, who are the best players, getting to that answer. It's not trying to find good value in 10 or in 6 or letting things fall to you. So we'll get some more into some prep. I already did an auction. That's where I got my values from. But this is the hard thing about crossing over from baseball. So football ended and there was nothing for a while. And so I studied baseball for months. And then you get fatigue. And then you make it to the All-Star break, and you really don't even want to set your lineup after the All-Star break ends. So I'm just finally setting lineups again. I see that I'm going into the play. I'm in the top 4 in multiple leagues, so I'm going to have to deal with that. I want to win those leagues. And so I hit this crossroads in August, like, oh my God, like, am I going to take football serious? Am I going to take football serious and do these drafts? I have leagues. I'm commissioning leagues. Am I going to be ready, or am I just going to get destroyed? But you got to gear up. But at the same time, should I be looking at pitchers last 30 days? Like 2 leagues. I'm watching the entire MLB and some AAA, and now I'm going to add just the whole NFL to it. So you just have to buckle up. You have to do it, dig in and get it done. Some people like this. Some people like to say, "Oh, all my baseball teams suck. I overspent it on pitching, and I just want to study football. I just want to move on." They're going to let those teams die. Those guys have stopped checking lineups, and they're hoping to be better in football. But I'm not dealing with that. I've got to dig in and take football serious here. So the other thing, I think you guys have good teams. I know that if you guys stuck with me through auction prep and did some auctions, you have some good teams because we have some similar players. And we didn't get destroyed by the pitching situation. And our guys are hitting, and there was a lot of hitting. So now, I mean, you saw the surge. You saw the surge after the All-Star break when you started just 9-0, 9-1ing teams. So those young players, they make the adjustment, they take a week off, they come back, they're hitting. So that's going well. This is my main point. We've got to discuss Superflex. Superflex first. Let's just take it slow. The podcasts are telling you guys to switch to Superflex because a 12-team league with 1 QB, it's just kind of distorted. There's a lot of good TV. There's a lot of good QBs. QBs are so deep. I mean, your 12th QB, Brady. I mean, it's just, whoever it's going to be, it's so deep, and then that's led to certain problems in Snake, like waiting on QB. There's no reason to take Rodgers in 3 when you could take, Wilson and 5. The whole thing. It just started to slip down, and so guys are saying no. Bring those QBs back into your league. Make quarterbacking matter. Add in a Superflex, which is just kind of bait. It really is a 2 QB league, but it allows you to get cute. Maybe put a wide receiver or a running back in. If you made a draft day mistake and don't have QBs, maybe you're playing someone other than a QB. So you've got to deal with that. My biggest thing on implementation, look at the scoring of this QB situation. So I moved to Superflex a few years ago, being a little bit ahead of the curve. And the problem is once you go to QB, if you give quarterbacks that big, touchdown scores or a point for every 25 yards, they're just going to dominate the conversations. The QB is going to pretty much take over the league. So you've got to find a way to nerf down the QB a little bit. Aren't all scoring systems? The idea is to get value and to get some equilibrium amongst what different positions can produce for your team, like make tight ends valuable, or like an NBA, like how can we get something out of centers? We push up the blocks. So for QB, for Superflex leagues, for nerfing them, my favorite thing is to go to a 1 point per 40 yards. Take some of that yardage back. That's not all their yardage. You threw a 3 yard screen pass and he took it for 80. Like the QB shouldn't probably get all 80 of that, and you're double counting it. But I don't like nerfing touchdowns. Why is a touchdown worth a 4? Why would a touchdown's a 6? Now, I don't see any reason to get off the 6 or the 4. That's not really where the problem is coming. The problem is coming more so in the yardage, because your running backs and wide receivers are going to get about 100, but your QB is looking at 300. So that's how I would deal with that. The other way to nerf him a little bit so that you can't just stream trash is to up the interception penalties. And upping the interception penalty is a better way to reduce the touchdown number, because that way a gunner, a gunslinger, a sloppy rookie, garbage time players, they're still going to get the minus for those bad picks because they're not good. You're going to get a little bit more touchdown to interception ratio. That's how I would deal with the Superflex. Now in your league, what does Superflex do to your league? If you're in a 12-team league, you went from the 12 QBs, and a couple guys had bench QBs, so they were at 15. You go to Superflex, all 30 QBs are important. Every QB becomes important. And then you sprinkle in bye weeks. Every QB is going to be owned. You really need to know your QBs. You went from being very, very cream of the crop on the QBs in a 1 QB league to a Superflex. All the QBs matter. From a draft perspective, the auction perspective, I think you need 3 QBs. You're going to have 2 QB bye weeks. You want to go to the waivers and get the worst QB in the league? You want to play Rosen for a week? You want to, whatever's happening in Tennessee, you're going to play Tannehill? So you're going to probably need 3 QBs. I'll add in this. If you're going to take some shots on some stuff, if you're going to take some shots on some guys I'm going to get back to, like Darnold, or you want some Kyler Murray, but you're not sure, maybe you need to take 2 shots. You're now at like 4 QBs. I will not say anything's wrong about having 4 QBs in a Superflex league. You got QBs on the bench. This is going to go completely against everything you've heard. There's no QBs. The fantasy footballers will talk to you about streaming QBs all season long. That's not going to happen in a Superflex league, so you do need to pick that apart. And my goodness, if your commissioner has gone to Superflex and he hasn't done something to nerf those QBs down, go get high-end QBs and just run that league off the table. Those QBs got to be nerfed down. That's what I got for you on that. I'm going to get into a little bit more QB action here later. What else did I want to get for you guys? Get into some players. Let's just do it here. So my first draft and my take on the league. My take, here it is. Here's players. It's not really concrete. I want to tell you guys how I would suggest bringing your league into draft. Obviously, the first thing you do is don't look at ADP. So I still haven't even taken a glimpse at ADP. I just don't want to know. I don't want to know yet. I don't think I'm missing players. I'm not missing number 1 and number 2 starters. I'm not missing quarterbacks on my list. I'm not going to look at ADP yet. Maybe I'll take a peek at some time later. I'm going to make my own list. Can you believe that? I'm just going to look at the numbers from last season. I'm going to look at data. And I'm going to make my own list. This is how I did it. I already did the work for you guys, but probably go do some of your own work. This would be a good way to do it. I take out an Excel spreadsheet, and this is my new thing. I'm highlighting. I'm doing that fill tool, the paint can, and I do a big block of blue for my blue chip players. Then I do a big block of green, probably 100 or so rows of green. That's like good. I'll use you. You're not up there, but and then I've got my orange, which is a little bit caution. You're in the league. Value matters. I've got to fill my bench out with certain players anyways. But I'm going to keep that down there for guys I want to keep open. So I think the hardest part about cutting through some of the early podcasts, the early fantasy information, is just where guys are in the process. It doesn't make any sense to talk to me about Boykin in Baltimore playing with Lamar Miller as a speculative ad when I'm not really sure how much I care about the top 20. Again, get the top 20 right. Get the top 5 rounds right. You'll have a better team. You're going to be buried in sleepers and other talk, and people want to do a wide receiver list and a running back list, and you're not getting that really comprehensive one list. So I've got my cells here. They're colored. And then I'm more of an NFL narrative guy. So I go into the stats. I go into the standings. We see how teams did last year. I see how many points were scored. I see how the division played out. And I try to get a division narrative because the division teams are going to each be playing each other twice a year. They have a similar style, shootouts versus defense or what's going to happen. And if I have players that are more so on the teams that are going to win and put up points, I'm more likely to stay on offense and I'm more likely to get touchdowns. You see where I'm going with this. So I've got the standings. The other thing I'll look at is just stats. Yardage stats, touchdown totals. I'm using NFL Reference. I don't know if I moved it. NFLReference.com. They've got tons of stats. They've even got some pseudo-fantasy stats in there for you. NFL.com is doing better with stats. It's not very hard, and I just kind of compare those two. And I start pulling over offenses into my sheet. Not a list. I don't care about where they are. I don't start the colors until 50 cells down. So I've got room to move things up later. I just pull them in, and I pull them in as team. I pull in the QB. I pull in his wide receivers, keeping them next to each other. I put in the running backs. I put in the tight end. Another recommendation, get the kickers and the defenses out of your fantasy leagues. Just delete the line. Stop doing it. You'll be happy for it, and you can stop wasting time with them on your bench and subbing them and streaming them and having strange outcomes because of defenses and kickers. So there's none of those on my sheet. I'm not even going to discuss those. I will only stream those in leagues I'm forced to use them. So I'm pulling things in by team. So you see what I'm saying? So now I bring in, it's all moved at this point, but like I bring in Breeze, and then I bring in Traquan and Michael Thomas, and then I see that I got Kamara's there and Latavius is there. That's why you have to start over. Because you've got to know where these guys are. You've got to know what happened to depth charts. Things are going to change. Remember, the whole goal here is to be drafting for next season. Like, what is this going to look like next year? A little bit predictive. Not just draft last year's numbers. We're trying to draft this year's numbers. So I bring them in. I bring in the tight end. And I could break down some of this. Like, let me give you some of the teams that came in blue, that were up high. I've already moved some of them, but you got your Baker Mayfield, Watson, Lamar Jackson, Wilson. I brought in Kyler Murray up here, Wentz up here, Goff up here, Luck up here, who we'll have to talk about, Prescott, Breeze, Rivers. That kind of ended my really good blue teams, offenses that I want, and that's because they were winning, they were scoring, and they had high offensive production, total production yardage that I could trust. You've got your Greens, a Cousins, a Rodgers, Darnold, Foles, Mariota, Roethlisberger. These serviceable, good teams around them. Then there's stuff I don't want. Flacco, Dalton, Josh Allen and co. Fitzmagic with Rosen, Manning, Haskins, Winston. Just trouble. So that does the coloration. I guess the biggest example of how some of this will work is like I was down on Winston, but I'm not down on Evans. So Evans ends up here in like my top 20 guys, even though I got Jameis at the bottom. It's not a true list. It's a working project. I move it around. I make some spaces for the money. That's how you put some of the work in. So looking at the league, here it is. Here would be my narrative. You hear this thing going out about 0 RB. But then most of the fantasy, they just go in there, just get running backs. Just get running backs. Get in there and pound the ball. I mean, you just have to look at the numbers. It's become a passing league. It's become the passing league. The quarterbacks are putting up ridiculous numbers. You can't touch the quarterback. You can't touch the wide receivers. They're playing spread. Backs are going to committees. Satellite backs are getting touches. The receivers ran the show last year. I just in yardage alone, there's multiple 15, 20 receivers up over 1,000 yards. The running backs over 1,000 yards, it was like 2 or 3. So to me, the first time I put this together, I said, who are the best receivers? These are my top 5 dudes who I think are complete locks to dominate fantasy leagues, Tyreek Hill. The dude is ridiculous. Juju Smith-Schuster. Yeah. Julio Jones, I'm not going to deny it. Hopkins and Michael Thomas. I mean, these guys are no doubters. No doubters. Michael Thomas might be my favorite. It's hard to pick between those. It's a matter of taste. But I want to build around that receiving situation more than other places. And then here I go. Patrick Mahomes, I have him at my 6th spot. Patrick Mahomes is my number 1 overall player. If you have the 1-1, I don't even care about the league. I think it's Patty Mahomes. The numbers were ridiculous. I don't see touchdown regression coming. I see Joe Montana with better movement. I'm so high on Mahomes that's why Mahomes and Tyreek or Watkins has to get a bump because he's in the system. Kelsey's going to be a beast. Damian Williams, if he stays healthy, the whole offense is going to start to work together. I'm extremely high on Mahomes. I listed him as my 5th player, but I really can't really put him behind Michael Thomas. Let me just talk about these prices a little bit. Tyreek Hill, $40. Juju, $42. Hopkins, $57. That's like a 60 piece on Hopkins. Michael Thomas, a 50 piece on Michael Thomas. So, I push doing Yahoo free auctions because it's free and because the app is so smooth. And you can just get a little bit of fun in. So most of my talk, because I just want to stay standardized, is like, what is Yahoo free auction doing? That's what we're kind of filling into. It's 1 QB, 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, tight end, a flex. I think they went to half-point PPR. It doesn't really matter, but basically the money is out of $200. So this is $200 prices. If it's different on a different site, it might shift a little bit, but it's relative. Mahomes went for 31. I don't think that's that bad. Let's jump over to that running back crew. I'll talk about them, and then I'll go back into the wide receivers that I prefer. Saquon Barkley. Love the talent. He went for $70. Oof. Of my $200, can I spend $70 on Saquon Barkley, who, by the way, is an orange on my sheet because I don't like the Giants' offense, and Manning is bad. We'd probably be better with the rookie. That's a lot on Saquon. But I do love him. I wanted to anticipate it. I didn't want to get it the first time because I had a plan to go heavy wide receiver. It was going to be Mahomes, 3 stud wide receivers, and I'll work it out at the back. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey, workhorse. He's going to do it again, $65. I don't think you can go wrong there on McCaffrey. Kamara, $64. Elliott, $63. Even David Johnson, $54. James Conner, $51. Nick Chubb, $48. So you're going to have to... That's 25% of your stack is going to be built around this one running back. That's a lot. I mean, you at least have to plan for it to get those guys done, and you probably have to pick the right guy. My first auction, I got away with some Le'Veon Bell at 46, but there's some concern. I mean, it's not the Pittsburgh Steelers line. We don't know what he's done. We don't know what the layoff has done. We don't like what Adam Gase was saying about him in the preseason. But for 46, should I have spent $10 more to get David Johnson, Mr. Thousand? But from David from 54 to 65 for McCaffrey, do I just go up and get the dude? I mean, this is auction. This is why you do it. I don't care about the money later. I care about my lineup that I'm filling and who's going to be the right guy. I thought Kamara, but Kamara's 64. There's no value there. So you're going to have to spend some super high amount to get those particular running backs. I can go a little deeper there. What I saw in the numbers, Kittle and Kelsey, they're up here in this range. They're up here in my top 20. $27 for Kittle is a sale. He'll be going on a team for me at some point. Kelsey for 48, a 50 piece on Kelsey. I mean, he's good. He's good, but I'm not sure if I want to forego, Elliott or Kamara for $10 more. I mean, Michael Thomas for $49 to get Kelsey. That's a little extreme. So that price is pretty high. You can be okay with it because of the Mahomes connection. This is the other chunk of wide receivers that I really like. Devontae Adams, Keenan Allen, Cooper with some concern about the heel, Beckham Jr., obviously, Antonio, Frozen Foot Brown, Evans, Thielen, Diggs. And then the prices in here, prices start to get cute. You start to see some of your values pop out. Adams could be up in the top group given his touchdown upside and connection. with Rodgers. $54, no sale. Keenan Allen for 20. That's free. That's for free. I don't know if it was just this draft, but Keenan Allen for 20 got to be put on a team. Cooper for only 25, and that was my price with a little bit of injury concern. Not bad. I think Cooper, we've been waiting for it. He's been better since he went to Dallas. It could just be the Cooper show this year. He finally does 1,510. Not sure. Beckham Jr. for 40. Antonio Brown for 27. I mean, Beckham Jr. for 40. He is a little bit of an injury risk. He is a little bit crazy. But his numbers have been ridiculous with Eli, who's not good. And then he's got aggressive, accurate Baymay throwing to him. I mean, Beckham Jr. for 40. Why not? Why not get a little piece of that? That seems cheap. Antonio Brown for only 27. That's cheap. Mike Evans, bad situation. Disappointed last year at $30. Thielen, 27. Just too easy. Diggs, 16. People really down on him. I'll round it out with T.Y. Hilton, who we've got to be concerned about, and then Cooks. So those are my guys. The prices start to really fall, and I would say switch to make it a wide receiver league. Whatever you were thinking about doing it around running backs, make it around wide receivers with good quarterbacks. Push your league with those. That's where I'm going. That's my experiment. My wide receivers are going to be stacked. My running backs I'm going to work out. So there's some other wide receivers. We could get into the next tier, but it's just kind of silly. The running backs is where you'll really have to come back and sort it out. Melvin Gordon, what's up with the contract? $37. Zeke Elliott, contract? Are you going to play Zeke? $65. Are you ready to put it all in on that? Nick Chubb, $50. You know Kareem Hunt is going to come back for your playoff run. I don't know. That one's tough. James Conner, I like it. $51, no sale. But let's get into the sale guys a little bit here. Gurley, 28. Arthritic knee? Oh, man. I don't know. Joe Mixon, I really like. Bad setup. He's in orange. Damian Williams, already a little bit dinged up. $38. No discount there. He's going as a number one. But Dalvin Cook for 32, we like. Derrick Henry, I've just lost my belief in Big Slow. The Big Slow Smooth, he's $27. Kerryon Johnson for 24 is pretty cheap. Mac for 18. We saw Mac give us a little bit, but then Andy Luck's injury does not help. Nyheim Hines being a good player and taking receiving work does not help. Philip Lindsay for only $10. Yeah, for 10. Ingram, who moved, you got to watch your league, got to look at your depth charts. Ingram is no longer in New Orleans. He's over in Baltimore. And he's going to be doing whatever they're doing with Lamar Miller, but there's a lot of backs there. There's Gus Johnson. There's Kenneth Dixon. You got to deal with that. But $11? He can catch. Sony Michel for 11. Here's your guys. The prices started to bump up. The order doesn't matter so much to me as the price. I need to know what I'm going to pay going in so that I can structure a team and have some money allocated and not get completely lost and end up with a giant hole in the squad. Fournette, 25. Aaron Jones, 20. Devonta Freeman, 18. Coleman, 15. And here's a name of the day for you guys. David Montgomery with the Chicago Bears, I believe. Hopefully they didn't swap the name out. But he's looking good. He's looking shifty. He breaks tackles. You got to just get David Montgomery into that mentality. So, Miles Sanders, Jordan Howard. I started to push up the guys I like. So just referring to the list, what happened was I said, forget the takeover into colors. Start picking these guys off of league leaders and numbers and who you like. And I started to sort them up there, and I can move them around. And then I'm plugging in prices next to them. Obviously, I insert a column next to each player so I can drop the price and the value in there. And what's interesting to me in a Yahoo Fantasy, after those elite dudes where the fight really resides, when you're overpaying, paying 60 and 50 for number ones and number twos, and a little bit of mid-round, like a little bit of mid-tier guys that are going in the 10s, 20s, it falls off. I mean, 6, 5, 2s, 1s. There's just not much happening late because of the $200 and the high overspend. It's a steep curve of spending. I'll throw a couple more running back names in. So what I learned, I did it quickly. I pushed cream of the crop up to the top. I wanted to figure out, I'm pulling up the squad right here. I was like, let me just get in. Let me just do a draft. Let me do a Yahoo auction, see how this goes. Here's the team. Patty Mahomes. Do I have the draft in here so I can see the order that it went? Let me see if I get the draft too. Oh, I do. Look at that. My first dude, Patrick Mahomes. He gets nominated with the second pick. So, again, nomination strategy is a whole issue. Baseball, we did a little deeper talk on it. Football, I'm not sure what's really specific yet. It's just like know your guys, know who you want. Patrick Mahomes with the second pick. I'm going all the way. I don't care what it went to. $31. Okay. Relatively in retrospect, if you want to know, there was a lot of $10 QBs. If you're on Yahoo Fantasy Auction, it's called the $10 QB TJ Maxx. Baymay, $10. Watson, $10. Lamar Jackson, $9. Wilson, $10. Goff, $10. Luck, $12. Breeze, $11. So I could have a $10 QB of my choice. Maybe I've got to fight and spend $12 or $13, or I've got to pay 3 times that for Mahomes. I'm fine with Mahomes. I'll get into the guys I love later, like Lamar Jackson. 18th pick, Amari Cooper. I got in there. I got him for 23. I went to a stack. I got Tyreek Hill for 39. Juju Smith-Schuster for 42. And my money's getting low at this point. I thought I was pretty starry with that. I mean, Tyreek and Juju, from what I think, are going to be complete beasts. I just want to put a running back on there. I've got a little love for Le'Veon Bell. I get upset when he goes off and I don't have a piece. So I threw Lev Bell on here for $46. And then the team is just garbage after that. I rounded it out with $2 N'Keal Harry, Marquise Brown, Devin Singletary at Buffalo, Duke Johnson after the news of the trade, Matt Breida, DK Metcalf, Carlos Hyde, Mark Andrews is my tight end, Tyrell Williams in Oakland, and Nyheim Hines. So if I was going to make an adjustment looking at the strategy going into the next draft, I want to buy my bye weeks. I want to have already paid for bye week caliber talent. I'm not going to care about the deep the draft. I'm going to decide how I'm going to do my 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, my flex. Big decision how you want to work your flex. You're going to flex in running backs or you're going to flex in wide receivers. And then I want to buy a bye week bench piece. I want to know that I've got a fairly good stud wide receiver and running back sitting on the bench so I can plug them in. And then I'll fill out the bench with better late draft picks, better late understanding, which is taking me a little while as I accumulate the information about who to throw darts at, I love to throw a dart. Just draft with a dart later. So who to throw darts at, getting a better take on that. This has kind of been a little bit of a QB show, so going back to my narrative and my theory on it is that we got to keep the ball on offense, which means we've got to convert on third downs. So I need a QB that's got a little bit of moxie in the pocket to make a good pass. Maybe I need a good running back or a good offensive line will help. And then I also notice it helps to have the right combination of weapons so you can keep teams off balance. We've got a running back you've got to respect, but we've got a vertical field stretcher. And our line is decent. And so, now the offense is going to do what they want with you, and that's going to lead to numbers. Unlike the Bengals, who are going to just be terrible and have to leave the field a lot and be a bad story. Yeah, there's guys there. There's going to be at some point the value shows up. I mean, Mixon is worth something at some point. So is Boyd because they're just fun. They're going to be funneled work. It just won't be that really, really good, dominant, ideal work that I'm looking for. But a couple of the QBs and the situations I'm growing up on and listening to is obviously Darnold at the Jets. Darnold, youngest QB in the league last year, highly ranked prospect, showed flashes of having it, picks up Lev Bell. Defense looked better. You've seen regime change. They can only suck for so long. Does this all come together? He's got Robbie Anderson, Enunwa, and Jamison Crowder, then Lev Bell, then Darnold, who made his tight end work. And suddenly you're like, this offense, if it came together, there's going to be talent just thrown off the edges. It's probably Enunwa's going to work out. Lev's going to get his. They're going to stay on offense. They're going to be good. So I'm getting pieces of that. In your Superflex league, yeah, Darnold, he's not my second. He's not my second guy. I'm not ready to put my whole season on a guy that wasn't that good and is 22 years old from last year. But I like him as a third. I like him coming off the bench. But there's even enough insecurity that if I get Darnold, I probably want to get one more little piece out there. Kyler Murray, I'm up. I'm up on him. First preseason game, value skyrocketing. Look at Kyler Murray. Second preseason game, he's diving into the end zone for safeties and didn't complete a pass and was looking scared and small. Like, get out of my hands. So his value slowed way down. But you're looking at a whole team with the new coach, a new system, a new spread attack, air attack. Kyler's going to be just opening it up. You got David Johnson there. You got a couple receivers. Like, does this come together? Does this come together? Do you want to get a part of this? Even if they're losing, they're going to be throwing. David's not coming off the field. You got Trubisky. It's in and out. It's a coin toss. Is he good or is he not that good? He runs a little bit. Matt Nagy's good. The defense is good. So I think Trubisky's going to be okay. I think he's a nice piece in the Superflex genre. Jimmy G, yeah, he got hurt last. Don't forget about Jimmy G. The San Francisco should not have been as good as they were last year. Jimmy G could be okay. He's a good QB. They said he's got problems in the red zone. That's okay, Jimmy G. I mean, maybe give it a shot. It could be okay. He's got young Shanahan there putting offenses together that no one has ever conceived of before. My guy, Lamar Miller. Lamar Miller. We don't know what's going to happen with Lamar Miller. We don't know how ridiculous it's going to be next year. The Ravens camp said their running game is going to get medieval. What does that mean? We don't even know. There could be four backs in the backfield and they're running triple stretch options. Just craziness. I just think Lamar's on another level. I had the opportunity to see Lamar in college. I was in Syracuse in the Dome, and Lamar broke off a scramble. And as he got to the pylon, someone went low to hit him, and he pulled the whoop, whoop, just hurdled him. And I just walked out of the stadium. They'd already dropped 30 points on us in the first half, and I had seen enough. I had seen Lamar Miller hurdle a gentleman into the end zone at the pylon. I love Lamar Miller. I think he's more accurate than people give him credit for. He's going to be running like crazy. I mean, if Lamar puts 1,000 on the ground, you just got a quarterback and a running back. I'm high on Lamar Miller. I'm high on all the pieces around it. Can he sustain it? I don't know. If he doesn't, I guess I'll have to go to the wires, but I'm going to be there for a lot of that. It's my favorite player. One of my favorite players going right now. I mean, that's kind of it. Buying my bye weeks, be better late. So better late, that's just, if I'm stacked at wide receiver, I don't need to take shots on every wide receiver in the game. I don't need Arcega, Whiteside. I don't have to worry about, is it Dante Moncrief or James Washington, who I think it's James Washington. Different names. Deshaun Hamilton. Are you serious? Kenny Stills. I don't want to be living there. I don't want to be streaming those guys. I want these super studs at wide receiver. I want Thielen for $27. I want Brandon Cooks for $10. Are you kidding me? So there's a lot of value to be had out there in the auction board. You just got to sort through your league and have some strategy. So for me, filling in late, it's to know the running backs better late. David Montgomery, like I said. I'm high on Josh Jacobs. I went and watched some Josh Jacobs tape. Yeah, I understand he doesn't have high-end speed, but he has moves. And he catches the rock. Why were they letting him return punts and kicks in college? He's a fairly big guy. He was returning punts and kicks. I mean, he's nifty. I think Jacobs could be better than we really know. Breida late. Do I have any other late guys here who I trust? I mean, you've got to be concerned about the split backfields. That's where I like darts. I mean, the committees, the whole handcuff theory. Don't draft a handcuff. Why not? Why not own a backfield? Why not own, if you own Zeke, you've obviously got to own Pollard. Who's the other guy there? There's another guy with some speed, and he's been playing pretty well. I have to find it later. But look at the Cowboys' backup. I mean, get the backup just to sort it out. Maybe you do the Tevin Coleman, Matt Breida nightmare play, where you don't know who to start each week. And Coleman comes in and breaks off long catches. Miles Sanders for 10. Just some of those late backs. Duke Johnson went for $2. Darius Geis. Is he healthy? He's a good player. $5. Tariq. That's my plan. I'll get back at you guys. And since you hung into this video for so long, the Fantasy Football Auction League is open. I just need you guys to send me some emails if you guys want to get in the league. I already rolled the invite over to the baseballers. So if you're in the baseball league, look for that. Go look for that invite. Just jump in. You guys got dibs. If it doesn't fill, if we overfill, we'll do another one. I've got a league up. Got an auction draft. You guys want to get into an auction draft with the big boys? Get in it. Drop an email in the comments. I'll hit you guys up with the invite. As I whittle this down, as I get some more information, I can come back. I'll give you my next auction hot take. We'll fill in what the gap on all those podcasts are missing for you. But start getting up to speed. With baseball was the long, slow, methodical grind. Football is like slam it in. And I don't even know, honestly, comparing the fantasy sports, football's just volatile. Of course, I want to have a good baseball team. I've been watching it all summer. They play 6-7 nights a week. It's 182 games. Football's 16 games. It's 17 weeks. Your fantasy season ends in 16. One of those weeks, the team won't even be playing. You're down to 15. It's just so scant. And then it's just the injuries are going to be ridiculous. The usage is guesswork at best. You don't know the strategies. You don't know the plans. It's luck. It's situational. So it's fun to invest in football. It's the original. It's the original fantasy sport. It's been, a couple decades of doing fantasy football. So I get it. But obviously your interest is gonna ebb and flow. I won a championship a couple years ago. I'm like, whatever. I just took a league down. It's going to come back, and then you get beat a couple seasons. You're like, no, I'm going to get serious this year. Or, your baseball teams suck. I'm going to get serious about football. Baseball, pitching suck. I'm not going to deal with it. F that. There's different reasons. So it just depends when you're up or when you're not. I'm trying to stay even. I'm trying to win auction drafts. I like to have really stacked teams going into the playoffs. And I like to beat up on my friends in my commissioner leagues. Holler at your boy. Get in these leagues. Baseball, just to let you know, for the baseball viewers, I'm trying to split this. This was a football video. While the podcasts are going to be saying, let's start ranking next year's players, I'm going to be talking about how to win in the playoffs. Micro-management, winning in the playoffs, because that's what we need. We need to be able to stream players. We need to know who to pick up late. If that Robert gets called up in Chicago, he's must own. Holler.